Hi everyone, this is Counseling 4480, Osborn Chapter 5, Aptitudes and Achievement Tests. So let's talk a little bit about, the basics of aptitude. Specific proficiency or the ability to acquire a certain proficiency. So what that really means is your potential. Like, do you have the potential to succeed if I, let's say, let you come into my college or something like that? This is what aptitude is. We think that you're going to be able to do that? Abilities represent existing skills, while aptitudes include potential skills. Abilities usually is what you already know how to do, and aptitude is what you might be able to do later on. Aptitude and skills through the lens of theory. So, in the textbook, as we have learned in this semester, person environment correspondence theory is very popular when it comes to aptitude. If the person's skills match the demand of the job, the person will perform satisfactorily and will continue doing that work. So again, if the skill set matches the job, we're hoping that potentially, in the future, if you apply for this job, you're probably going to be happy and work there. However, sometimes a person is very passionate about a topic, but their scores for the coursework or assessment is low. So for example, a client wants to be a doctor really, really bad. However, he fails chemistry twice. So what do? Tutoring can help, but sometimes that still won't work, right? Someone really wants to do something that's their passion and everything, but they just can't get the basics or the foundation to actually achieve that. So what happens? Here is a script or something that you can use if you were in this situation with a person who is in that situation. Ask what attracted the student to medicine in the first place. So let's talk about their interests and their values, and then consider exploring other medical careers. So you might want to visit ONET and see what other medical careers are associated with that specific medical, let's say doctor. Maybe it's something a little bit more billing wise, but it still works at a medical clinic or something like that, or admin or something like that instead. So again, you want to explore related occupations on ONET, administer a general aptitude or achievement test, and explore occupations that are generated. So we set the aptitude, so again, the potential, but then also maybe we should give them also an achievement test to see what their skill sets really are. So let's say that they really love doctors, or want to become a doctor, but they don't know anything about biology. So that means that maybe they really need to start from the beginning, remedial classes maybe, and stuff like that. But if they failed it a couple of times, that might be a hint that this might just not be the field for them. So that means you need to learn how to talk to them and basically encourage them to think about other things as well. Discuss potential external forces such as family that might be placing pressure on the student to choose medicine. So for some cultures, the parents will say, you're going to be a doctor. So then that's what they say they're going to do because they live in a collectivist household. And sometimes people who do that actually don't do very well because maybe it's just not in their abilities, right? So that's something that you might want to also understand about your client if they are a person of that type of family. Explore and address any negative career beliefs or dysfunctional thinking, career thinking. So maybe they say something like, if I'm not like a rich doctor, I'm a complete failure, right? But the thing is, people can be rich and successful in other things and not be a failure. But if this is their entire thinking so far for their entire life so far, that is something then you want to discuss with them so that they understand that that's actually very faulty thinking or dysfunctional thinking because people can be successful in many things and not become a failure. And also just because you fail once or twice does not mean that you're a complete failure either. Types of aptitude tests. So we have measured aptitude, which shows you what a client may be good at through taking a test or demonstrating a skill. So with the measured one, just think about measuring something. When you measure something, you kind of know exactly what it is, right? It's something that you can see and compare against, like a ruler or something like that. So when it comes to measured aptitude, it's really, did you get the right answers, right? Or are you able to demonstrate it correctly to us? An express skill is another type of aptitude test. It is a response that a person may have from being asked, what are you good at? So when someone says, they're good at something, for you, you might assume good means you can do a Rubik's Cube in 3 minutes. But for them, really good at a Rubik's Cube could be an hour, right? Or someone who might think that they're good at it and they can never solve a Rubik's Cube, right? So you can see how this is a response, a kind of a subjective response, which means that's more of their perception or their opinion. And although it's true because that's what they say, it varies when it comes to actually comparing it against something. So express skills are subjective, opinion that can vary greatly. One can over or underestimate to impress someone. The person may have a cognitive disability that prevents accurate assessment. So maybe someone who has depression or schizophrenia might think that they're really good at something, but they're really not. Or they might not be good at something, but they actually are really good at it because they're depressed. Think about just an example is, if you are ever going on a date with someone and they say, oh, do you know how to cook? And they're like, yeah, I know how to cook. I'm a really good cook. And then we find out that all they know how to do is like pasta. You know what I mean? So again, that's an opinion. And for some people, they want someone who can make a 5-course meal or something like that, and that would be what someone would say as a good cook, as opposed to someone who knows how to microwave. All right, abilities inventory. That requires a person to perform a task that has greater validity. So with abilities inventory, which is very similar to the measured aptitude, is that we really see what the truth is when you actually get to see them perform the task. So let's say that someone says that they're really good at typing, then you go, let's do a little typing test, right? And then the typing test results say that they are typing 80 words a minute. Then you're like, okay, you are really good at typing. So the abilities inventories are much more accurate or have more validity. It really is measuring what it is saying it's going to measure, the typing speed. And so then you really understand where they are when it comes to this ability. Ability inventories that require a person to rate themselves on a scale does not have a high of enough of a validity, which is what we were talking about before when it talks about the Rubik's Cube or something like that. Or even with a typing test, they say, yeah, I'm a good typer. And then when you give them a typing test, they're typing 10 words a minute, which is a little bit slow, right? They would not necessarily apply for a job that requires a lot of typing. Aptitude testing in people with disabilities. Many people with disabilities are already aware of how their disability impacts their ability to perform a task. So when you work with someone with a disability, you don't have to tell them that they might actually have some barriers. They probably already know. They know that they have a disability, right? So they know that there are some barriers that they're going to have to overcome, or maybe they already have figured out how to overcome those barriers, and that's fantastic. When interpreting a client's profile to the client, you should focus on their abilities and how to enhance their skills. So we know that they have barriers, so we want to say, oh, you know what, you're really good at this, you're really good at this, so, let's talk about some jobs that require those abilities, as opposed to saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, so you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't major in this, you can't major in that. Because that's really negative, and when you say, oh, you're really good at this, let's think about some jobs that require this type of skill set, it's the exact same thing, but in a positive perspective, right? And that's what we want to focus on when it comes to our clients, is the positivity. Assess people with disabilities through these types of assessments. Usually you want to interview them so you can see how they respond, how their thinking is, how their body language is, through observation, like, watching them, giving them written tests if that's possible, performance tests so they can demonstrate some stuff. Work samples are examples of stuff they have already done, like a portfolio. And then situational assessments, which is when you actually put them into an environment and let's see how they work. Situational assessments, placing the person in a real or simulated work setting and then having them be evaluated by peers or supervisors through observation, interviews, and rating scales. So there are places where there's actually training where the room that they're going to be in looks just like a restaurant, right? And so what they do is we're going to put them in there and then say, hey, you're going to play a waiter, and then watch them do, like, let's say take the order, greet the customers, bring the food out and all that stuff, so they really know what they can and cannot do. Because sometimes the subjective response is, oh yeah, I can do that, and they really can't do that. When we put them in a situational assessment, we really know that they can do it because it's in the real environment or a very similar environment, and they seem to be able to do great, and that's wonderful. And then we know, hey, we can hire this person to do, let's say, becoming a waiter. Multi versus single aptitude tests. So multi-aptitude test batteries is measuring a wide range of aptitudes and combinations. So basically, you're doing a bunch of different tests at one time. A single test is used for a specific aptitude, such as manual dexterity. So a single test would be, we want to just know whether or not for manual dexterity, that basically means, can you use your hands really well? Okay, as opposed to a bunch of different things at one time. So that's just to let you know that usually multi is really wonderful, but sometimes you just want to know specific ones if they have, let's say, a specific disability, if they can do certain things. But otherwise, you might want to use the multi one to really get a range. But again, it depends on the situation with the client that you have. Specific aptitude tests, I'm just going to read a couple of them for you guys so that you guys know. There are much more, and the book actually provides more. But if you just go online, you can just type it up. But these are some of the most popular ones, okay? The differential aptitude test, also known as the DIT, and it is used to identify candidates for hiring, training, and career development in any organizational setting. The differential aptitude test and the career interest inventory, which is the CII, to simulate career exploration for students, including those who are interested in attending college, non-college bound students, at-risk students, and adults. When the DAT and the CII are given together, interest and aptitude comparisons can be made. So this one is a multi, right? Because there's two, and we can use it to really understand a person a little bit more than if you just gave them one. Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, also known as the ASVAB, to give students the opportunity to explore a variety of careers using knowledge they have gained about their interests and skills through assessment components and structured activities. Career development during adolescence and early adulthood is an ongoing process. So again, it's very developmental, which means like growing up, right? The ASVAB test and the composite content was selected to facilitate prediction of success in training and entry-level performance actors, a wide range of military occupations. So what that basically is, the ASVAB is to prepare you to see if you're really going to be good in the military. Here are some other ones. Aviator 3, multifunctional approach encompasses aptitude assessment, 2 pictorial audio interest surveys, and 2 database. The standard and the ONET databases, which are approximately 1,000 jobs. There's also the SkillTran to provide software and online services for rehab, forensics, and career services. There's also the Talented Assessment Program, or the TAP or TAP, system for assessing career aptitude quickly and fairly. There's also the multi-aptitude test, limitations and suggestions. So now we're going to talk about the reasons why, multi-test doesn't mean that it's the perfect thing. A meaningful career search may begin once test results are evaluated. So in that sense, it's wonderful. You can have a dialogue, a conversation with your client about exploring different types of jobs. It provides valuable suggestions and clues to be considered along with other information in career decision making, but it should not be expected to pinpoint careers. It will only provide partial answers. Again, we're talking about potential, right? So, when we say you study really hard, the potential is that you're going to do well, right? But we really don't know if you're going to do well or not. So it cannot be a guarantee. We're just assuming that if you prepare yourself well enough that you're going to succeed. But there might be barriers and stuff like that that prevent you from doing that. And again, this is the reason why there's a limitation when it comes to potential. Difference between aptitude and achievement tests, and I know that we talked a little bit about that earlier. Both measure learning experience. Achievement test measures the knowledge that a person has, and the results are compared to other scores who are at the same grade level to identify whether that person's scores are below, equal to, or above grade level. And it can be influenced by the classroom itself, such as the size of the classroom, and then of course the quality of the education. Depending on your teacher, you might learn more, you might learn less, you might learn the right amount, right? So that's also something that could influence it. It's not just the only reason why, it's just one potential thing. And also, let's say that if you had a class of 10 students, the teacher can really focus on those 10 students. But if the teacher has 50 students, it's a little bit harder to focus on one specific one, and that's what they're talking about when it comes to that. Do achievement tests predict success? Obviously, the answer is going to be yes and no. ACT and SAT tests have been found to correctly predict college grades 25% of the time. So again, we talk about this all the time, where just having one assessment really cannot predict anything. It really can't help you with a lot. It can give you one day's worth of ideas, but the thing is, depending on if you were having a good day or a bad day, you might have scored really, really bad on your SATs, right? So you want to, and this is what professionals in the field of, assessments and tests are saying, is that you need to combine it with your GPA, maybe how motivated you are about the job or the school that you want to go to, your age. How do you study or your study habits? These are really, really, really good predictors then if you combine them all together to really understand who this person is and whether or not they might be successful. But even then, you might have all highs, but then there's an emergency that happens with that person's life in the middle of schooling and college, and then they, fail everything, right? So we cannot ever guarantee anything. There are so many things that can come up within the 4 years or 6 years of college or more that might affect you. Achievement tests in women. Negative beliefs about self may impact the student's achievement scores. Believe it or not, women, as we've talked about in the semester before, have very low opinions about their skill sets. A lot of the times women, and this is in studies, underestimate their actual abilities, okay? They will not ask for a raise until they think that they're perfect at their job. Whereas men, might not be really good at their job, but they're going to go, you know what, I'm going to learn on the job. So they'll say, yeah, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And then that's why they'll get promotions easily because they sound confident about everything. Whereas women, they don't feel confident unless they feel like they are perfect. And that is something that is the difference between men and women when it comes to the workplace and promotions and stuff like that. If girls embrace the idea that they're inferior in math and science, they will opt out of those classes, which results in higher paying jobs. So again, we know that STEM or STEAM classes, STEM or STEAM basically stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, right? So STEM is without the arts, but arts is really important because thinking outside the box is when people invent things. That's why STEAM is more appropriate when it comes to this field. But the thing is, like, if a young girl was told that, boys are supposed to do math and science, girls are supposed to study, like typing and secretarial work or, stuff like that, those jobs are always going to be lower paying than math, science, and technology. So then if girls think that, they go, you know what, I don't want to take, AP calculus or whatever in high school. That prevents them from actually getting a job that pays really, really high. So that's something that we're talking about when it comes to this conversation here. Women in high-level math courses who believe that they are not good at math were actually doing good in math. So again, even right there, when women take math classes, even though they're passing and they're doing well, they think, oh, you know what, I'm really not that good. I know it sounds silly, but this is actually something that's cultural, something, in America as well as in other countries. But then also, gender specific, the way that we are taught how to see ourselves as a woman or as a man or whatever. Achievement tests and cultural concerns. Standardized achievement test scores are often seen as a gatekeeper for certain educational programs. So what that is saying is you kind of need to take specific types of tests before you can get into a college because it requires it. That's why it's called a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is the person who stands in the front like a bouncer and says you can come in or not, right? Most programs will consider multiple factors so that they can diversify their student body. Statistics has shown that people of color tend to score less than people who are Caucasian or white. So they will say, you know what, although we require you to take the SATs, we're going to also look at all these other things and maybe weight them a little bit more than your SATs. Because, sometimes we go to a high school or a middle school or elementary school that's not really good. And that's not necessarily our fault. It's just the neighborhood that we were brought up in. And so we want to also, the college wants to also give those people an opportunity because they might have the potential, again, to be really, really successful and to diversify the campus. And diversity is really, really important because a lot of colleges for a long time were very Caucasian based. And to be able to meet people of different cultures, ethnicities, religion, only makes your life more full and, more experience because you get to meet all these different people that you might have had assumptions about, but you never really met them. So you don't really know if it's true or not or what. So by meeting people and becoming friends with people that you would normally never make friends with or friendships with, is very important in a college setting. Research has found that achievement test results alone do not predict the success of at-risk students. Again, that's what we were saying before. These standardized tests might not necessarily work so well for people of color, for certain minorities and stuff like that, because it's just not a very good predictor because maybe they're really smart, but because of the school that they went to, they didn't get the proper education. So then, that's really unfair to punish someone and to deny their potential success in the future and stuff like that. Counselors who work with minorities with low achievement scores should encourage their application through experience such as work or volunteer. So really to be able to demonstrate, that they know how to do certain things, and then taking leadership roles, and then also focusing on their GPA. Here are some specific achievement tests that we want to mention. The Stanford Achievement Test, the SAT, probably one of the most well-known tests that you have all heard of. It's to help educators find out what the student knows and are able to do. Wide Range Achievement Test Revision 4, or the RAP4, it allows educators to examine students' development of reading, spelling, and arithmetic, and to diagnose learning disabilities in reading, spelling, and arithmetic when given with a comprehensive test of ability. There's also the test for Adult Basic Education, or the TABE. Assess adult basic skills and vocabulary, reading, language mechanics, mathematics, and then spelling.